Happy Monday, damnation. There is so much news to cover. I hope that you had a rested weekend because, unlike the President of the United States, I hope that we're not unraveling and all becoming increasingly unhinged. This man's trip to Europe, dear God, okay? Buckle up because there is a lot to get into today. Let's go. Hello, my friends. Welcome, damnation, to the Danielle Moodie Show. This is a jam-packed Monday, friends, so we about to just dive all the way in. If you have a cocktail, get it. If you have a mocktail, get it, because you're going to need to sip along the way. Let's go. So we start out today with what I think is just possibly signaling a change in the wave of information coming out about Israel's assault on Gaza. For the first time, in 2 years since the war against Gaza began, there has been, folks, the coverage has been insane. The coverage has been one sided. You have seen, and we've talked about it on this show, how different groups and different people that wanted to talk about, right, the dignity, the self determination of Palestinian people were thrown out of school, arrested, shut down, blacklisted, and more. Today, for the first time that I have seen, the entire above the fold of the New York Times is all about Gaza and the starvation and humanitarian crisis that is unfolding. Look at all of these headlines. So much so that even the word genocide is on the front page. Now, last week, we talked about them publishing the bullshit op-ed from Brett Stevens that said what was unfolding in Gaza wasn't a quote unquote genocide, as he said, because only 60,000 people have died. He's a depraved human being, because the follow-up question that I would love to ask Brett Stevens is, what number makes you feel comfortable? What number of children being killed, losing limbs, mothers, fathers, journalists, doctors, nurses? What is enough for you for it to register as a genocide? Just curious. But here we go. For Trump, mass starvation in Gaza tests his foreign policy approach. Trump will have to decide whether America intends to take a leading role in confronting one of the biggest humanitarian catastrophes of the 21st century. Let's be clear that America is the reason why there is a humanitarian crisis unfolding in Israel. Because without our tax dollars, without the $3 billion a year that Israel receives from the United States, it would not have had the money, the military, and the power to orchestrate the kind of atrocity that they have been doing over the last 2 years. Trump on Monday acknowledged, and here's a stretch, because once again, this to me looks and sounds like sane washing, because when Trump was asked multiple times about how he feels about the pictures of starving children coming out of Gaza, he deflected, he detracted, and he made up a whole story about Venezuela and Iran. So acknowledged, okay. Even as world leaders and humanitarian organizations warned that more than 20 months of Israeli bombardment and aid restrictions had left nearly 2 million Palestinians in a hunger crisis. Speaking to reporters in Scotland during a 75-minute question and answer session with Prime Minister Keir Starmer of Britain, Trump offered a vague promise to open new food sites in Gaza, but said nothing about how the United States would get that aid into the largely demolished enclave. Because let's be clear, I posted it on this show that a few months ago, Donald Trump reposted on his broke down social media platform an AI video of Gaza, referring to it as what? The French Riviera of the Mediterranean, with Trump Gaza plaza and saying that, oh, well, the Palestinian people will just remove them, give them space someplace else, which is called ethnic cleansing, so that he can make a buck with another cheap, gaudy hotel. This is another headline. Revenge is not a policy. Israelis voice dissent against the war in Gaza. After a long silence, prominent Israelis and activists are increasingly raising alarms about potential war crimes being carried out by the government. Abhorrence of Israel's devastating war in Gaza has resonated for months in capitals and in university campuses abroad. Now, a growing number of Israelis are speaking out against what they describe as atrocities carried out in their name in the Palestinian enclave. Israeli protesters are holding aloft portraits of Palestinian children killed in Gaza. Academics and authors, politicians, and retired military leaders are accusing the Israeli government of indiscriminate killing and war crimes. You see, folks, this has been going on in Israel for quite some time. They don't like Netanyahu. And it was apathy in the electorate that allowed him to get back into power again when he should be in prison. Does that sound familiar to you? But there have been protests that have been happening all throughout Israel over the last 2 years, but the American mainstream media hasn't been reporting on it. Almost as if to say, well, again, Israel has a right to what? Everyone say it together, defend itself. Even if that defense looks like starving children, this is where the world is beginning to draw the line. It's just unfortunate and disgusting that it took hundreds of thousands of deaths and a picture of a mother holding a skeletal baby for everyone's eyes to open up to what many over the last 2 years and those over the last decades have called an apartheid state in Israel. The piece goes on. In the early months of the war, the vast majority of Israelis consider the offensive a just and necessary response to the deadly Hamas-led attack on Israel on October 7th, 2023, even if they were skeptical that the government's long-term goal of eliminating Hamas was attainable, opinion polls showed. Despite that, a majority of Israelis have long wanted a deal that would end the war in exchange for the release of all the hostages still held in Gaza and relieve soldiers exhausted by months of deadly conflict, according to the polls. And I have posted on my own social media platform on Instagram pictures of young Israelis burning, setting ablaze their requests to join the IDF. You see, everyone in Israel has to serve in the IDF. And these kids are saying, fuck you, jail me, because I'm not going to be a part of and complicit in this genocide that is unfolding. These are the pictures that are finally shaking the world. And I wish and I pray, and it makes me sick that we have had to see this in order for people to be able to remove the muzzles that this country and our media and our politicians have placed on the people in telling us that we don't know enough in order to speak on the conflict. That's what they told the young students protesting on college campuses, those that they have detained, those that have lost their degrees, those that are facing jail time, all for speaking out because this has been happening and they didn't want it happening with their fucking tuition money. Of the people who have starved to death in Gaza since the beginning of the war, 80% are children. UNICEF reports this is an episode that shames the world, and the US is particularly complicit. These are facts. These are facts that can no longer be ignored, that we can no longer lie to ourselves or not scroll past what is a genocide unfolding right before our eyes. This gentleman A U.S. colonel accuses Israel of war crimes. Anthony Aguilar, a retired Beret who worked in Gaza, spoke out on what he saw. Take a listen.
Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, a Special Forces veteran of the U.S. Army's Green Berets. He's in Washington. I spoke to him from a spot just near the Gaza border.
I witnessed the Israeli Defense Forces shooting at the crowds of Palestinians. I witnessed the Israeli Defense Forces firing a main gun tank round from the Merkava tank into a crowd of people, destroying a car of civilians that were simply driving away from the site. I witnessed artillery rounds landing at the intersection of the Marag corridor and the coastal road. I witnessed mortar rounds being fired at the crowds of people to keep them controlled onto the Marag corridor in the south.
As a professional soldier with a very long career, what was your professional opinion of what was happening?
My professional opinion of how the sites were established was what I would describe as amateur. Inexperienced, untrained, no idea of how to conduct operations of this magnitude. That would be my most benign assessment. In my most frank assessment, I would say that they're criminal. In my entire career, have I never witnessed the level of brutality and use of indiscriminate and unnecessary force against a civilian population, an unarmed, starving population. I've never witnessed that in all of the places I've been deployed to war until I was in Gaza at the hands of the IDF and U.S. contractors.
An unarmed and starving population. Another IDF officer told, he's not an IDF officer, but an IDF officer told Haaretz that the food aid, the limited food aid stations that there are in Gaza are a killing field, that soldiers are told to shoot them where they stand, because it is not enough that Netanyahu and his government are bombing indiscriminately hospitals, universities, everything in Gaza is gone, is rubble. But now you starve them to death, and then that's not enough. So you kill them while they're getting food. If that is not a war crime, then I don't know what is. If that man doesn't deserve to be under a jail cell, I don't know who does. On top of which, the person who was elected to be president of these United States is in Europe right now, and he is losing his fucking mind, right? Here's a headline from Rolling Stone. Trump rages about windmills and whales, claims he sent aid to Gaza, but no one said thank you. What? Yes, folks, that actually happened. Oh my God, this is embarrassing. Trump just told reporters on live TV at his meeting with the EU president that he's not in a good mood, and then had a meltdown about Democrats being busy with conspiracy theories. Take a listen, because I wish I was lying.
Not in a good mood. Our country was dead. We had a dead country because of an incompetent president and incompetent Democrats. All they know how to do is talk and think about conspiracy theories and nonsense.
And nonsense. Nonsense like the lies that he built up for roughly 10 years around Democrats being pedophiles, and you're the one that was best friends with one and can't even refer to the man in this day and age as a pedophile, is unbelievable. But Donald Trump is in a bad mood because he's a petulant fucking toddler. But why is he in a bad mood? Not just because the Epstein case has continued to go in the media, new headlines every single day. Basically, this is Epstein summer. For the first time ever, Teflon Don, shit is actually sticking to him. And if this is the one thing that sticks, my God, let it rock. But the other thing that is happening, His poll numbers. Take a listen.
We are talking about independence, Mr. Berman. And I will say this is the biggest warning sign, the biggest danger sign for President Trump in his second term so far. Why is that? Because it does not appear that there is a bottom to which Donald's support can't fall to. What are we talking about? Trump's net approval rating with independents. You know, there was all this hubbub about Gallup that came out this past week. You see, back in January, it was minus 2 points. Now it's minus 35 points. But what's important here is Gallup is largely matching the average. Back in January, in the average, Trump's net approval rating with independents was minus 3. Look at where it's fallen to now, minus 29 points. That is a drop of over 25 points with the key part of the electorate. If you're not winning among independents, you're probably not winning overall. And when your net approval rating's minus 29 points, you're definitely not winning overall when you're that low with independents.
It's just the size of the drop. I mean, it's staggering.
It's huge.
Okay, so how does this compare historically?
Yeah, you know, we were talking about Trump's overall approval rating, that it was the second worst overall. But we look among independents, it is the worst on record at this point. My goodness gracious, worst net approval ratings ever 6 months in among independents. Last time around, Trump broke the all-time record at minus 23 points. He is even lower than that now.
Can you imagine?
Minus 29 points. He has broken his own record for the worst on record. As I said at the beginning, there appears to be no fall, and Trump is certainly falling through that floor.
So during the Biden administration, I think there was a lot of thinking that maybe enough focus wasn't being paid to the effect that inflation had on people's thinking. And it may very well be that inflation is playing a bigger role in opinions than we recognize.
Yeah, so inflation in my mind was what cost Joe Biden the presidency more than any other factor, and it brought him down. But guess what? Donald Trump at this point, his net approval rating on inflation among independents, it's actually worse than Biden's was a year ago. Biden was way, way underwater at minus 38 points. But look at Trump and the average of polls on inflation. Oh, my goodness gracious, minus 45 points. I never thought I'd see the day, especially this early on in the Trump administration. The issue that in large part got him elected is at this point the issue more so than any other that is dragging him down. If this is what we have on midterm day come 2026, I can promise you this. The Republican majority in the House, you can wave adios amigos, goodbye to it, because Republicans, simply put, can't win with this number.
So to deflect from all of the things that are happening, to deflect, Donald Trump has been lying. He's been trying to denaturalize Rosie O'Donnell. He has been lying about success with trade tariffs that are not happening. He has been spreading AI video images of Obama and Kamala Harris being arrested. He's been doing the most. Do you know who else has been doing the most? His sycophants. Take a listen to this clip with Lindsey Graham.
What the hell happened? Let's get a special counsel.
Hold on, Senator. As you know, former President Obama has weighed in through a spokesperson. He says that's just patently false. I actually spoke to Susan Miller, who's a former senior CIA officer who helped oversee the 2017 intelligence assessment on Russian interference. She says it's completely false that Obama or anyone else asked them to change or sway their investigation. She says they all, she says, and she's a Republican, says they all would have quit if that had happened. Senator, are you trying to rewrite history to distract from the Epstein matter, Senator?
No, I'm trying to let you know and the media know that we found something we didn't know before.
All of a sudden, Kirsten Welker is a journalist again and is asking questions and follow-ups. Where was this over the last 10 years? No one knows, but now it's present because listen to her same day with Mike Johnson.
Just heard my conversation with Congressman Massey, Congressman Khanna. So let me start off with this question. Why did you adjourn the House early? And does it run the risk of feeding the perception that there's something to hide in the Epstein matter?
Look, these are all important questions. Let me be absolutely clear, as we have been from the very beginning. House Republicans insist upon the release of all credible evidence and information related to Epstein in any way. But we are also insisting upon the protection of innocent victims. And our concern is that the Massey and Khanna discharge petition is reckless in the way that it is drafted and presented. It does not adequately include those protections, and I can explain all the details of that. With the important thing on the timing.
But, Mr. Speaker, it's not just Republicans supporting this. It's 11, not just Democrats, it's 11 Republicans as well. Let me just ask you, because I hear you saying that, yes, the files should be made public while protecting the victims. Let me just ask you, though, should all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein be released and made public?
Yes, I agree with President Trump, with the Department of Justice, with the FBI, that you need all credible evidence and information out there. That word credible is important. And why? Because you have to protect innocent people's names and reputations whose names might be, as you
all he does is continue to repeat the same line of bullshit. And the fact that he has the audacity to continue to utter the word credible while he spits lies and bullshit tells you everything that you need to know about Mike Johnson. But folks, it gets even worse, because the man with the stupidest name as a senator of these United States, Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, goes on to CNN and he tries to redo history right before our eyes. And get this, Jake Tapper actually acts like he found his journalism degree as well. Take a listen.
If the was case saying is for sealed, well, then tell me why for months she was saying that she's going to release the information tomorrow.
We made the assumption that the judges would release the order and allow the evidence that they had, that it could be heard. But it's all been sealed. And so if it's been a sealed case, we can't release it until the judges allow us to release it. And you would think common sense would play. That's why they asked for transparency. We want transparency. We want the judges to have transparency in this too. But remember, there was a plea deal that was struck in 2009, way before I was in office, way before Trump was even considering to be in office, way before Pam Bondi was in office, way before Kash Patel was director. 2009, there was a sweetheart plea deal that was made underneath the Obama administration with Epstein.
Right. That's not
and that sweetheart has not been exposed.
No, it was 2000.
Not? Well, when was the case heard?
It was 2008. It was the U.S. attorney at the time was a guy named Alex Acosta. He was a Bush appointee. He went on to become President Trump's Secretary of Labor. It all took place in 2008.
Who was in office at the time?
2008, George W. Bush.
Who was in office at the time?
George W. Bush.
No, 2009 is when the case came out, and it was and Obama was in office at the time.
It's not true.
So here they are. They are doing their best to tap dance, to spin. And the media, for the first time ever, is just like, oh, wait a minute. What's that word that you're lying? You're lying. You're fucking liars. No, we're not going to have you communicate to the people and say that Obama was president in 2008 when he ran for office in 2008 and was inaugurated in 2009. So your timeline doesn't make sense. Okay. And here's Jake Tapper, of all fucking people, who I think is gross, saying, you're lying. Because folks, they've allowed these people to come on air for 10 years and spread this lie. But like I've said, I don't know whether Epstein is going to be Donald Trump's downfall, but what I do see for the first time are the fissures and the fractures that are so incredibly important, because when you have many, over time, the entire fucking dam breaks. But look what else is happening. Oh, my. Today, Ghislaine Maxwell's attorneys file a reply brief to the Supreme Court of the United States to toss her entire conviction. She's serving 20 years in federal prison for her role in Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking pedophile ring. And now she's going up to Donald Trump's MAGA Supreme Court to say, get rid of my conviction, saying the U.S. violated its own immunity deal when it prosecuted her. Who went to go visit her last week? Oh, folks from Trump's Department of Justice, because she's lied all these times before, but now that Donald Trump's feet are to the fire and his base is hungry for some chum, he's throwing everything that he can out. My prediction, if this goes to the Supreme Court, and they decide to rehear her case, and Donald Trump says, do away with her conviction or he pardons her, folks, That is the dam breaking. We will follow that story because that is news that has come out. Also, let me just say this. Donald Trump, again, in Europe, right, trying to distract from all of the things that are happening at home. And Ali Velshi just broke it down so beautifully. He calmly fact-checked everything that Donald Trump said at his press conference in Scotland. Please take a listen because it's just too good.
Wow. I'm not going to say any more words until my executive producer puts on the banner next to me. That was bat poop crazy. Just not gonna. That was crazy. I took lots of notes. This is in no particular order. Windmills are killing us. 7 million people died in Rwanda, but I ended that. The Rwanda genocide ended in 1994. Energy needs no subsidy. America subsidizes energy to a great degree. Windmills are, Windmills are killing us. They're the most expensive form of energy. He's going to have a deal with the EU in an hour. He's not in a good mood. He said that. He said there's not going to be a deal really with the EU. He said very specifically, he said, mostly I'm just going to charge tariffs. It's not really a deal per se. People are just going to pay tariffs. He went on for a little while about a ballroom and how they don't have a nice ballroom in the White House because they've never had a developer in charge of the White House. But now he just built a beautiful ballroom and he could just drop it into the White House. And that's going to be fantastic. Wow. We've got a lot of steel and aluminum plants being built in the United States. We've got a lot of automotive plants being built in the United States. I can't even read my own writing. Asked about people starving in Gaza. He seems very upset that no one has thanked him for the food that they provided. He said that Iran is being very nasty with its mouth. He did say he gave two pieces of news. He said that the United States is going to do more for Gaza. And that he talked to Benjamin Netanyahu. Those are the only two pieces of news that I was able to glean from that whole thing. He also said we have a lot of con jobs going on, which I think might be a piece of truth as well. But I don't know what he was actually referring to. This one, I mean, I was watching your faces. You guys were.
Ali Velshi broke it down so well. I mean, the only news that I gleaned from the entire presser that I'm so glad to spare you all from is the fact that there is a con job going on and he is the head con. And in the meantime, folks, you say to yourself, my God, I can't believe that this man is president. What will Democrats do? Will they take advantage of these sinking poll numbers? Will they take advantage of the catastrophe that is unfolding now at Trump's feet in Gaza? Will they take advantage of anything and actually get a spine, have a backbone, have a strategy? What do the American people think about Democrats right now? Well, not much. Wall Street Journal poll, the Democratic Party's image has hit its lowest point in over 30 years. Just 33% favorable, 63% unfavorable. And I'll play you, as I close out today, this final clip from Gavin Newsom. Now, you've heard me say on this show on a number of times, I can't stand Gavin Newsom. I know that he has ideas, presidential dreams in 2028. But when you decide to use your own podcast to platform racists and insurrectionists like Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk, and now that you see the writing on the wall for the Republican Party, that you're going to do a pivot once again from your MAGA embrace and now recognize that maybe Democrats should get their shit together, well, you know, I start to feel a type of way. But even a broken clock can be right twice a day. And today, at this time, Gavin Newsom, in an interview with Brian Tyler Cohen, talks about how he is sick of it and that the party needs to wake up. Take a listen.
I'm sick of it, and I don't want to be on the receiving end of that anymore. I'm sick and tired of being on our heels. Got to be on our toes. It's not about, fighting back. It's about leaning forward, and it's about setting the tone and tenor. I'm sick of this party needs to wake up. These guys aren't screwing around. And I say this not in literal sense, but they're assassins when it comes to the way they weaponize grievance and the way they play politics.
Yeah.
Enough. I mean, what more goddamn evidence do we need? Excuse my language. I mean, they've rolled back the last half century. In real time, that's just 6 months.
Right.
Can you imagine this guy having an additional 42 months with no system of checks and balances, no oversight? I mean, seriously, the hell else more evidence do you need? This is an existential moment. And so Democrats, if we want to have a party, if we want to be functioning, not just as a party, but as a democracy, if we want a system of checks and balances, we believe in the rule of law, if you believe in popular sovereignty, this is not about popular sovereignty. This guy wants to wire. He tried to break this democracy, tried to light it on fire on January 6th. He just made a call to the governor of Texas saying, in this case, not find me the votes, but find me new seats to rig the game. If we want to still be in this game, we need to disabuse ourselves, disenthrall ourselves of the status quo in the past. We have got to enter a new mindset, and we've got to get back on this playing field, and we've got to do it with the kind of vigor that our kids and grandkids deserve, that liberty and freedom deserves this moment. The founding fathers deserve the principles that define the best of Roman Republic and Greek democracy. That's on the line unless we stand the line and stand guard of this democracy, and that means we got to go on offense. No more defense. Go on offense. Fight fire with fire. So you ask me, am I in? I'm all in. You ask me, am I committed? I'm all in, committed, and resolved. And so this is not a bluff. This is a moment to be held to a higher level of accountability.
And this is where I can agree with Gavin Newsom. It is time for Democrats to decide what they are committed to, because there is no center when you're dealing with extremists. You can't moderate your way through this. You can't embrace genocidal maniacs and think that the voters are going to reward you for taking hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars collectively from AIPAC to muzzle yourself to the truth of what we are seeing in Gaza, to think that you're going to negotiate your way with Republicans who have turned themselves into domestic terrorists. Gavin Newsom is right. Now is the moment. And Democrats have to decide who they are going to be. When the cracks start showing, you take a fucking crowbar. Are they going to answer the call? Only time will tell. That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. I will be back live tomorrow for Town Hall Tuesday, so join me at 5 p.m. Eastern. As always, dear friends, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow, live, 5 p.m. Eastern. Be well.